MiniWarGaming's Rise of the Blood Reaver.
Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and it's time for Storytime Part 4 of the Rise of the Blood Reaver 40k narrative campaign. Hopefully by this point you've already watched number 1, 2, and 3, because there will be spoilers happening right here, so if you haven't watched those yet, you have been warned. And after you finish watching the storytime, make sure you click the links below to go and watch missions 4A and 4B of today's campaign. So where we left off, the Imperial convoy transporting Anton was stopped by the Tau strike force, and the Ethereal was rescued, much to the relief of the rest of the Tau on Lascaris III. Anton swore vengeance on the Imperium who had invaded their planet, and made further preparations to strike back and drive them off the planet by whatever means necessary. With the Ethereal restored, the Tau's morale was boosted, and their war efforts were increased as well. They truly believed that they could not be stopped by any number of humans that would stand in their way. Every Tau was marshaled to fight back against the Imperium. Lord Inquisitor Gregorovitch was now facing his own difficult choices. On the one hand, he knew that the Grey Knights would hold best against the Tau, not just because they were stronger than the Imperium forces, or Imperial Guard forces, but also because of the morale that they added. But he also found that he believed to be the crypt that would lead to the demon's lair. He gave the order for all Grey Knights to leave the war fronts and come to the southern polar regions to reinforce his efforts, believing that that was more important than defeating all the Tau, giving most of the command of their invasion against the Tau to the Imperial Guard captains. Immediately the Tau started having more success, partially because the Grey Knights really were that strong, but also partially because there was a big hit on the morale of the Astra Militarum as the Grey Knights were seen leaving the war fronts, and so they felt that that was some bad omen. The Tau took every opportunity to regain lost ground, and they appeared to be succeeding. Gregorovitch couldn't wait for all the Grey Knights to rally to his position. He sensed that he must act soon or lose his opportunity to stop the Blood Reaver from escaping. So he took the few surviving Grey Knights with him down into the crypt. It wouldn't have taken the sensitivity of a Grey Knight to feel the strong presence of the warp. It enveloped them, distorting reality as they descended. However, the Grey Knights were undaunted by the threat and pressed forward. Sure enough, the mine shafts opened up into a larger cavern, which clearly was not natural. The architecture was ancient, but was definitely Imperium-made. In the middle of the cavern was what appeared to be a throne. As Gregorovitch started his approach, he caught movement in the hallways leading into the main cavern. He quickly marshaled his forces, as within seconds the denizens of chaos started to pour in. The foul minions of Khorne wasted no time as they rushed towards the Grey Knights, totally unafraid of their weaponry and hungry for battle. As if that wasn't bad enough, a huge hulking demon prince marched into the cavern and roared a challenge across towards Gregorovitch. The Lord Inquisitor felt a moment of panic as he realized that he was facing the Blood Reaver. Was he already too late? Meanwhile, over on the Tau outpost, where Helen and Anton had entered into their large battle with the Tau and the demons, the only true victor appeared to be Khorne, as all the Tau and most of the Imperium forces were slaughtered in the fight. During the battle, Anton actually fled back towards the Storm Raven, sensing that something was terribly wrong, and feeling that he had to destroy the Eldar Relic before it was even more out of control. He was certain that Helen and her battle sisters would fall because the last he saw them, they were surrounded by a bunch of Khorne berserkers surrounding her and her sisters and starting to butcher them. Once he was back on board and found the relic, he, with a spoken prayer to the Emperor and the help of his melta gun that he took from a fallen soldier, destroyed it. He was actually surprised to see how easily it was destroyed. He was expecting more resistance from something that would cause such large warp incursions. To his dismay, the warp storms did not abate, and so he called to the pilot to return to their ship before they fell to the Khorne demons. At the same time, he ordered a general retreat of all the soldiers, although he knew that most were dead, or at least stood no chance of getting back alive. He left a burning planet behind him, and thankfully made it back through the storms to the ship in orbit, however, with no information about the whereabouts of Inquisitor Croyle. Some of the other transports made it back too. Much to his surprise, Helen and many of her battle sisters emerged from one of the transports. Many of them were injured and their armor was battered, but they were alive, and Helen appeared to still be glowing. When she saw Anton, Helen's expression turned into a scowl, but she was distracted by a nearby injured sister and helped her to walk towards the medical facilities. Anton gave the order to the ship captain to take them into the warp and head towards Lascaris. Their permitted time was up, and they had no idea where Croyle had gone, so they really had no reason to stick around. It wasn't long before the ship was traveling through the Immaterium, only days away from their destination. Sensing that something was terribly wrong, Anton went to find the Grey Knight brother champion Cassius to discuss the issue of the warp incursions and Helen. He found Cassius in the forward observation deck looking out into the warp as it coursed around the ship. When he mentioned that something seemed to be wrong, Cassius agreed. In the battle, Helen was definitely glowing with power, giving the impression that she was gaining more in the Emperor's favor. But Cassius couldn't help but feel that the power she gained was not from the Emperor, but from another source. Both Cassius and Anton sent for Helen to come and meet with them so they could investigate what had been happening. It wasn't long before Helen walked onto the deck, the scowl from earlier still present on her face when she saw Anton. Anton stepped towards Helen and told her of his concerns. Was she increasing in faith, or was she giving in to other, baser instincts? As Anton continued to question Helen, Cassius grew more anxious as he could see that Helen was getting angrier and angrier. It wasn't just that, though. There was also the fact that he could sense a powerful presence, not from Helen, but from something in her possession. Cassius was about to step forward to examine what he felt with when Helen all of a sudden yelled at Anton, calling him a traitor of the Imperium for fleeing the battle, and then pulled out her plasma pistol and shot him squarely in the stomach. Anton fell with a grunt to the ground, and Cassius quickly pulled out his blade. Helen fled from the deck, calling through a communicator to her other sisters for aid against the traitors Anton and Cassius. He would have jumped forward immediately, but Anton groaned on the ground. He stopped for a moment to make sure he was alive, and then ran in pursuit of Helen. So our missions today, mission 4A, will be the fight of Gregorovitch and his Grey Knights down in the caverns with the demons. And the other mission, mission 4B, will be Cassius pursuing Helen in the bowels of the ship as they go through the warp. So both of those are at the links below. Of course, mission 4A is available for free, and mission 4B is in the MiniWarGaming Vault. If you're not a Vault member, you can still click the link for mission 4B, get a free 7-day trial to the MiniWarGaming Vault. It helps support us, and you can actually get it for as little as less than $3 a month if you get the bronze yearly membership. So it's very inexpensive. It's an inexpensive way to help us be able to continue making videos and be able to make more of them, make more variety, and make more studios, and do everything that we need to do so we can bring you more of the content that hopefully you are enjoying. So go ahead, click the links below. Thanks for watching, and happy wargaming.